go ahead with questions when you guys are ready.
Shauna, players indicated that the tape was a teaching tool this week. How important was it to use the tape as opposed to just flushing it in training?
I mean, you have to learn from it, right? Any failure and that you go through, any adversity you go through, it's really when you learn the most. So, you keep winning games and maybe you're not, doing the little things right, and sometimes it's hard to get their attention, but they know, like they knew it wasn't the performance we wanted. They understand that this team, they get that. So we went through it, we showed it, we talked about it, and then we went to work and worked on it. So we've had a great week, but that also has to lead over into execution on Sunday.
With the response from your team of maybe a challenging week, what would that response kind of tell you about them and moving forward?
I think it's just about who we are, right? Like when you get hit, when you get punched, when again you deal with failure or adversity in life. This isn't about basketball. This is about life. Like how do you get back up? What is your response? What's your bounce back? And I don't think that we didn't respond if it's not a W. It's just how we go about doing what we do. And how we do anything is how we do everything. And that's the culture of what we've tried to preach here. And it was not up to standard, not up to expectation on Sunday. And that's the obvious statement. But, just continuing to work and continue to get better. It's not a one-game season. It's not a one-week season. As long as we're continuing to learn and get better and then playing our best basketball when it matters, that's what I'm concerned about. But again, the response so far has been great, and that's all we can ask for. We go day to day and see what they do.
Kyra kind of talked about with the climbing on the road, you maybe spending some time with her with some film work. What's that kind of been like to work with her this past week?
I give my staff they're the head coach in that area, and obviously I have a great relationship with all of our players, especially Kyra, and she's our point guard, so I need to do a better job too of making sure she understands, which she's been with me a long time, she does, but sometimes film again is film doesn't lie. It's a great teaching tool. So we just spent a lot of time watching that and having her understand what we need, what I want, and what our team needs. And she took those teaching points to heart, and then she came out and carried it over on the practice court, which is really, really important.
Is that maybe an area you've seen her grow in, just her film work and maybe more of attention to detail of that aspect of the game, though? Do you feel like this?
Yeah, I do, and I think we have to continue to be better with it. So that's why I said we're going to continue to watch film all the time together. I'm going to actually start watching film with our point guards even more. Had to do that a couple times at Dayton, just so we're all on the same page and we're connected, because they're the coaches on the court. They're the ones having to make those, make calls at times when they don't. I can't. They're the ones that are going to have to, pick our team up and help them be poised and respond in those times where I can't call a timeout. So I'm going to do a better job of really trying to make sure we're on the same page. But I thought the growth was when we carried over. When you see it, you show it to her, and then she went out and executed it. That's what we're talking about. And again, is it going to be perfect ever? No, but as long as we can continue to make those little steps.
Has there been an emphasis on talking this week? Because it seems like you have a lot of veteran leaders that are lead by example type people.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's been an emphasis, since I've gotten here.
Right.
And we talk about talking more than anything. And some of our guys are a little bit more quiet by who they are personality-wise. But it doesn't matter when you're on the floor. You have to communicate in order for us to be successful defensively and/or everything. So we've had some really good team meetings, and we've identified stuff. They've taken responsibility and accountability, and also knowing what they need to do, and calling people out on that, which they've done a really good job of this week. Because you need that leadership within. You need the accountability from within. It can't always come from coaches, and I'm really proud of our team for how they've responded in that area, and the growth in that area too. People are talking this week maybe that haven't talked as much, and that's another small little step in our progress.
Is having players having more established roles in your second year and their second year together, does that help in a week like this where you're not trying to figure out who's going to be the talker and people kind of know who to look to?
Yeah, we, for good or bad, we know each other, right? And I think that's part of it, because we're all different, and some people have to say more. Some people, have to continue to use their voice, and those are all things we've talked about too. We're always very honest, but I think again we went a little bit deeper in some things that we need to after Sunday. And I think people are taking that to heart, and then they're carrying it over on the floor. So it has to become a habit. Those things have to become a habit, and that doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen in a week. But at least we're taking the right steps, and we're going in the right direction.
You kind of talked about after the Michigan game, just maybe putting your team in some adverse situations in practice. What does that kind of look like this past week?
Yeah, it's been super, super competitive. We've gone longer than we've gone, all year. I'm not letting them. We'll do drills where we got to get a stop, score, stop, and if that takes 30 minutes, it takes 30 minutes. That's one example. Different drills like that where you got to get 3 stops in a row, and if that takes 2 minutes, that's great. If it takes 20 minutes, you got to figure it out. And then through that, when they're struggling, they got to come together and figure that out instead of me being the one to say something. They got to stick together. We put them in different scrimmage situations where they're down 10, this many minutes left, or second quarter down 6. How do you go into halftime? So just those type of things of having them being able to communicate on the floor. You guys hear me talk a lot about our responses and our R's and making positive, quick responses together in games. And they've done a good job with it. We're successful more than not in all of those situations. So I feel good about that.
Not used to seeing both Kyra and Jen struggle from the floor offensively. Do you sense that rattles the team too, or is that part of the response they have to figure out?
It's part of the response we have to figure out, right? And that's what happened on Sunday. First 5 minutes, solid. Didn't hit shots. Start kind of worrying. Then it affects our defense, and it affects them. They take bad shots, and we're getting giving up transition baskets, and that's kind of that snowball effect. We got to have everyone, has to be ready to produce and make an impact. And if your shots aren't falling, how are you going to manufacture points? Scorers manufacture points. Get to the free throw line. Get yourself going by going to the rim, and then your threes will come. So we got to get better in that. That has to be part of that toughness of how can we withstand a drought scoring and let that fuel our defense instead of our offense fueling our defense. And right now, I think that's been one of the major things that we've tried to address. Where last year I just thought we were really solid defensively. Right now, I just think we're fueled a lot by our offense. We've talked about that a lot. Defense has to be that is who we are. It's what we hang our hat on. Defense and rebounding. That has to fuel your offense instead of the other way around.
How do you coach that? Is it something they just have to click? Like how do you make that click faster? I guess.
Yeah, I mean, if you know, let me know. It's just constant talking, preaching. And we talked some because last year's last year, but we do, and this year's this year, and they're totally two different journeys. But I think there's some things that we need to remember from last year, and I hadn't talked about last year a lot until maybe this week, where remember what got us to where we were last year. Remember our mindset. Remember how hungry we were. Remember how we defended and the urgency and all those things. I just wanted them to remember that and get that mindset. So we talked about that. We're going to show them some of that stuff of our this year too, our really good defensive possessions. So hopefully some of those things will click, and we kind of put it all together.
Is that something you've had to do in the past? To try to dig back to the year before? Or is that something you've adjusted to just where you guys are at right now?
No, I've had to do that before. Every year is different, right? It's like you try to think of new ways to either motivate or new ways to engage them, and think back to maybe some of the previous 7 years of me being a head coach, or my days as an assistant, and every team's so different of what works. So I've dug into the bag a little bit and come up with some new stuff, and at the end of the day, this team, they really, really want to be successful, and they work hard at it. It's has it gone our way every time? No, and that's part of the game. But how do we continue to stay on path? How do we continue to get better? How do we stay positive when everyone around us, again, thinks we're awful again? So, and I use that. I'm like, last year we said everyone thought we sucked, and you guys love that, and you guys worked really hard. I'm like, okay, well now everyone thinks we suck again. So let's just use that as motivation and come out and have that us against everyone mindset and prove to everyone, because we know what we're capable of doing.
With all the things that Kyrie is for you guys as a catalyst guard, is there a pressure that comes along with that, and how have you maybe tried to alleviate some of that feeling for her, especially when she's coming off an injury too as well?
Obviously, I mean, I'd be crazy if I said there's not pressure on her. There's pressure on everyone, right? Whether it's this year or last year, and then there's heightened pressure with her. She, and then she didn't practice for a long time. She was out a lot in the summer with some different injuries, right? And yeah, I think she felt all of that. So I'm trying to just get her to step back and remember what she's really elite at, and try to get to those spots and get to those areas in terms of her offense. Where are you shooting? Where's your comfort zone? So I've been really encouraging her to get to those spots, and then just from a poise level, just playing with poise, and just relaxing and playing the game that we love.